The United States and Israel, I think, have embarked on an action that is incompatible with the international rules-based system, and that obviously creates a very difficult backdrop for the conduct of the United Kingdom government in this conflict. I think what the Prime Minister said is an illustration of how these situations can get out of control very, very quickly. I'm acutely concerned about is that the Prime Minister's stance that this is essentially a defensive move to make available UK bases and UK resources for the cooperation with the Americans can very quickly become viewed as an offensive mechanism, and we get caught up very quickly in the conflict.
There are clearly all sorts of dangers all around, but would you not allow the United States to use British bases for what the Prime Minister says are defensive purposes?
I think the difficulty is how you maintain that position about the defensive stance. I understand why that's necessary and why the Prime Minister has had to contemplate that because of the risks that are being faced by British people and British service personnel.
But do you think, if you were in Keir Starmer's seat, would you allow the Americans to use British bases for defensive purposes or not?
I understand why the United Kingdom has got to protect our own people. That is the fundamental duty of the United Kingdom government. But the UK has been placed in a position, a very dangerous position, because of the actions of the Americans and the Israelis. What I'm saying is there has to be a very, very constrained use of those bases for the purposes of protecting our citizens and nothing else.
But forgive me, First Minister, your position, although expressed differently, sounds pretty much the same as the Prime Minister. He said, fine, use the bases, but only to defend British assets, whether that's civilians or the military in the wider region.
Well, I'm giving a very explicit warning about my worries about escalation, and I think the focus has to be on de-escalation. It has to be on securing a diplomatic solution to this conflict.
Are you allowing Prestwick Airport, not that far from Glasgow, to be used by the American military?
We're seeking clarity from the United Kingdom government about the purpose of American flights that are coming in and out of Prestwick Airport. We don't have the ability to scrutinise those flights.
If American military flights are going through Prestwick in order to be part of launching strikes on the Middle East, would you stop that? Would you ban that? Formerly, the SNP government did stop the Israeli military using Prestwick Airport. After all, it's owned by the government.
Well, that's something that I would explore, yes.
So
but I need the information to enable me to take that decision.
Let's talk about an issue of huge concern to many people in Scotland. Scotland's biggest hospital, the Queen Elizabeth in Glasgow. Now, there is an inquiry into what happened, but between 2017 and 2021, at least 84 children developed infections because of concerns around dirty water. There have been deaths at that hospital linked to the failings. You met with the families who've got great concern about the deaths in some cases and the harm in some cases caused to their families by mistakes, infection at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, the biggest in Scotland. What did you say to those families?
Well, first of all, I expressed my regret for the experiences of families and in some cases for the loss of children who had been cared for in the Queen Elizabeth University Hospital. I said to the families that fundamentally I believe the hospital is a safe hospital on the basis of all of the data that I have available to me. But we have a public inquiry that is looking at the original construction and development of the hospital and the issues that have emerged as a consequence. It's important.
Did you apologise to the families who lost loved ones when you saw them yesterday?
Yeah, of course I did, yes.
And do you regret that SNP governments successively didn't take red flags about that hospital seriously enough?
Well, I would contest that point because we set up a public inquiry. So we accepted...
It's nearly 10 years there have been problems at that hospital and a ward's been shut this week because of problems.
I think the SNP government responded to the concerns of members of the public by the establishment of a public inquiry, which was preceded also by individual case reviews of the circumstances and the treatment of individuals. And then in the here and now, where issues arise, where there are problems, the Scottish Government, through NHS Greater Glasgow and Clyde, is addressing those issues.
If you win in May, as opinion polls suggest that you might, the SNP will have been, getting on for 2 decades in power, but not really closer to achieving the ultimate goal of your party, which is for Scotland to be an independent country. What direction do you think you're really taking this country in?
So I think it's now pretty clear in opinion polls that there is a sustained majority support for independence in Scotland.
Is it?
Yes, if you look at the pattern of opinion polls, I think it is pretty clear there is a majority support for independence in Scotland. And what my politics are about doing two things. About working at all times to serve the people of Scotland and to make our country more successful and to deliver better outcomes for people in Scotland, but then to enable the country to take the choice about our future and to make sure that Scotland's future is in Scotland's hands. And that's by becoming an independent country. I've said that if we get a majority in the Scottish Parliament, which is my aim, then that will be a repetition of the circumstances in 2011, and what that led to was a referendum on independence, and that's exactly what should happen. And that will be my priority.
Do you think Keir Starmer would listen if you asked for another referendum?
Well, I don't think Keir Starmer would be the Prime Minister if I win a majority in the election in May.
Do you think he'll be gone?
I think he definitely will be gone, yes.
Would you serve a full term if you win as First Minister?
Yes, sir.
First Minister John Swinney, thanks very much for speaking to us.